Meet Zach Crush, the guy who has publicly admitted to breaking my arm in a Kimura lock. Here is the evidence and the timeline. Starting in May, a group called BAM published a sustained series of attacks against me. They called me fake news, questioned whether I was a genuine journalist, said I was in it for the views, made false claims that people were suggesting me and therefore Cambodian authorities staged the incident at Osmatch, and published racial white monkey material. From the time of the Osmatch warning shots through to June, BAM published 12 videos, 2 to 3 a week, about me. I have no idea why they were attacking me. I've never met them, had never spoken about them, and didn't even know they existed. Brett Golding, publicly identified as part of BAM's leadership, also personally participated in attacks on my credibility. At around the same time, Michael Barry Alfaro was also publicly criticising me following the Osmatch gunfire incident. I didn't publicly fight with either of them. No drama, no internal disputes, no distractions. My focus was Thailand and the border. Behind the scenes, I filed a formal complaint about BAM with authorities and submitted copyright complaints against BAM's TikTok account. That account was subsequently banned with approximately 466,800 followers and 10.5 million likes. BAM suddenly stopped making content about me, so I retracted my official complaint. Then, on 25th of June, Zach contacted me as Zach with KF Arena and offered me a VVIP ticket. I immediately asked about BAM, as I'd seen an article on Cambodia Investment Review stating BAM were involved in the broadcasting. That same day, Brett Golding had joined my Telegram group. Zach initially replied, "Not at all." After I showed him the published BAM broadcasting partnership and explained the dispute in detail, he replied, "They are involved, yes." I ultimately refused to attend KF Arena specifically because BAM were there and I didn't want drama. I was unsure how I would react if they did anything stupid. On 9th of July, Zach contacted me again, asked about my professional wrestling history, said he had wrestled a little himself, and suggested we train together. Later, I asked him and a few others to become my opponent in a professional wrestling match after Dave Leduc had asked me to find an opponent for Kong MMA's launch event. Zach was immediately the most keen to be involved. Zach has since emphasized that I was the one training him in professional wrestling. But he knows I had around 20 years of ring rust, weighed approximately 135 kilograms, and was badly out of shape. He had offered to become my fitness coach and promised training that would start easy and fun. Zach also had documented professional links with people at Vietnam Pro Wrestling through promotion, event production, media, and partnerships.
Here we are with Lennox at VPW on August 17th. What does this show tonight mean to you?
A quick search on YouTube shows Zach's fighting and training experience. On 12th of August, Zach again promised, "I promise we start easy and it will be fun." When I arrived, I discovered the location was not a gym. Zach told me it was his girlfriend's empty house. Zach later made a major point of me requesting privacy. I had requested privacy from people taking photos and videos whilst I was out of shape. When discussing a place to train and saying private, I obviously meant a private membership gym. I did not demand an empty private house. and my messages show privacy wasn't essential and wasn't even a priority.
Request, we found a private place.
Before training, I specifically explained that professional wrestling submission holds should be applied at roughly 5% pressure, enough to feel the position and safely sell the pain.
Said that Zach broke his arm. I couldn't believe it because they're training, they're practicing. You're supposed to go, at 5-10% strength.
Zach then applied a kimura. I tapped the mat repeatedly, tapped his body and repeatedly shouted, "Stop!" for 10 to 15 seconds. When Zach claims I was the one training him pro wrestling, he also fails to mention a kimura lock is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu hold. Zach is a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. We may have done a little pro wrestling training, but Zach very quickly turned it into something else. Zach says he didn't notice me tapping and that I never said stop. Again, Zach is a professional in multiple combat sports. He also has a history of training many people across multiple fighting disciplines. What Zach himself confirms is that he held my arm for several seconds, heard it snap, and then released it. He said I made no sound or movement at all whilst my arm was being snapped in 3 places. As I said, my humerus broke into 3 places and I suffered serious nerve damage. My radial nerve was severed. Zach also says he did not abandon me, but he didn't wait with me. Upon breaking my arm, he immediately got up and said, "I'm sorry, Kevin, I'll go get help." Then he gathered his belongings, including 2 bottles of water he'd purchased for us, and left. I then waited without moving, in agony, for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. It's hard to tell how long it was, waiting for Zach to return. He didn't. So I had to slowly inch my way across the other side of the room to where my phone was, using my head and shoulders to inch up a little and then my feet to push. I had to be careful because I could feel the severed bone moving around in my arm, threatening to break out of the skin. I finally got close enough to my phone that Siri would work. So I called my sister. It would not go on speakerphone, so she hung up and tried calling back. I could not answer as I didn't know how with Siri. I finally got to my phone a short while later and called her. She quickly arranged an ambulance after I sent her my GPS location. At 17:41, I voice messaged Zach asking him where he was and that he had been gone for almost an hour. My sister did not know exactly which house I was in, so we needed him to show her. He didn't reply until 6 p.m. I told him I had been forced to crawl across the floor to reach my phone, inch by inch. Doctors suspect that this unnecessary movement and delay after my arm was broken is what caused my radial nerve to be severed. At 18:12, I was still asking why he wasn't there. He called my sister after I gave him her number and provided no useful assistance. She arrived at the location I'd sent her, saw my car, and asked locals if they had seen me. Zach says he called emergency services and they did not answer. 119. I've used them a few times in my 10 years here and they've always answered instantly. Zach's phone records will prove this or not. So instead of coming back and taking direct care of the man he'd just injured, he decided to drive all the way to the hospital. My sister showed the ambulance where I was and they found me upstairs in the house in a state of shock. I was quickly rushed to Calmet Hospital and was in surgery a few hours later. I woke up from the surgery to the public reaction. I didn't want people to unduly worry, so I put out a factual rundown of events as I understood them at the time, without naming Zach, as I didn't want a trial by social media. I then decided to see if BAM had picked up on it to mock me again. And that's when I saw something that made everything very clear. But I'll save that for the end of the video. Since my arm has been broken, BAM have published 2 further videos mocking me. Zach published his own response video. That video had practically no reach at the time, yet Michael Barry Alfaro, who had already publicly criticised me months earlier, was almost immediately in the comments supporting Zach. Then both Zach and Alfaro claimed that I had accused Thailand of paying Zach to break my arm. I did not. In fact, I said the opposite. I was specifically not accusing Thailand of paying Zach, and I had no evidence to present such a claim as fact. So that allegation about what I supposedly said was false. I've seen people speculating about whether somebody wanted me hurt. I've seen people asking whether Thailand or somebody connected to Thailand could have paid somebody to do this. I don't know. And I'm not going to accuse anybody without any evidence. I'm simply telling you exactly what happened. Brett Golding was busy replying to comments and arguing with those that were upset about the incident. Brett had far more knowledge about what happened than either Zach or myself had published, all whilst BAM were posting videos mocking me. Again, none of this by itself proves coordination between anybody. I'm presenting the evidence in sequence. BAM attacked me, Alfaro criticised me. I refused to engage publicly because my focus was Thailand. My action against BAM resulted in its major TikTok account being banned. Zach approached me through an event involving BAM. He knew the history and I refused to attend because BAM were there. Zach later approached me about training. His Kimura lock broke my arm during our first physical session. He packed up his stuff and left me alone whilst I lay injured. BAM then published 2 more videos mocking me. Alfaro almost immediately appeared supporting Zach on many videos with practically no reach. And both Zach and Alfaro attributed a claim to me about Thailand paying Zach that I had explicitly not made, whilst Brett was busy mocking through the comments and his media company, BAM. Then, after the injury, I discovered one final piece of evidence I had never seen before, that I mentioned earlier, pieced things all together for me.
Erwin. Oh, found out what your last name was. Don't you think it's ironic that your last name is Win when you've never won a match? That could all change.
That's Zach Crush presenting for BAM on the BAM media set. Several hours after the incident, this showed up on Zach's Telegram. A payment of $2,500 in cryptocurrency. Zach is now rumoured to have fled to Vietnam. Thanks for watching.